Ed Dick, alongside Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, and Sean Duffy. You are watching us live on our YouTube page, Sports on Tap. Sean, what do we need to do to get your notifications?
Oh, man, you got to click subscribe, but you got to smash that notifications bell so that you can be advised when we're going live, because we are in the thick of it, ladies and gentlemen. We are in week 4, or we're recapping week 4, going into week 5. We're halfway through this 2022 regular season.
Thank you, Sean. You can also make sure you follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast. Our website is sportsontappodcast.com. Send us any of your pronunciations, stats, or any other information you want us to know at sportsontappodcast at gmail.com. Let's run through our sponsors real quick. First, we have G&G Fitness Equipment, www.livefit.com. They are also on Twitter at G&G Fitness EQ. They are our sponsors for the Player of the Week contest, which we will go through each of our conferences here shortly. We're also sponsored by GV Artwork. That's gvartwork.com. Use the promo code ONTAP10 to get 10% off of your order. Bandwagon Fantasy Sports. You think you know college football better than us? Join our free league on the Bandwagon Fantasy Sports app to find out. Bandwagon is the only simple, engaging, and competitive fantasy sports platform based on teams rather than individual players. How does it work? Each college football team in the system is assigned a preseason dollar value. There are 106 teams total from the Power 5, Independent, MAC, AAC, and MWC conferences available to draft. You do have a certain amount to draft. You have $36 to draft 8 teams. Each game your team wins gives you points in the standings. You also get more points you also get extra credit for road wins. You can add and drop up to 25 times each season. After week 6, teams' values update every 2 weeks based on actual performance data. So this is not subjective. This will be based off of performance. It's up to you to figure out whose bandwagon you want to jump on or jump off throughout the course of the season. Remember, jumping on a team before they get hot gives you a huge advantage. Talk lots of trash and figure out who truly is the king or queen of college football in 2022. Bandwagon Fantasy Sports, not daily, not traditional, just teams, just win. Our specific league is Sports on Tap CFB 2022 passcode SOT. We're also sponsored by Ray Felton State Farm Insurance. Call Ray's office today for a free auto quote to see if you can save any money on your auto insurance. And Ray's also always recruiting new team members, whether it be sales or service. There is always an opportunity for the right candidate. Call his office today at 234-284-2996 to learn more about the opportunities available. And last and certainly not least, RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. RRT Productions could shoot video of your event, game, or special occasion. Visit our website, www.rrt-productions.com, to contact us today. We are, as Sean mentioned, we are right in the thick of it here. We are through week 4 of the high school football season. A lot of conferences just either kicked off conference play or they're just about ready to get into it. And, this season's flying by already. We're going to introduce a new wrinkle to the show today. But the way, if those of you who are not familiar with our show, what we will do is go through our recaps of the 4 conferences that we cover: the Greater Cleveland Conference, the Southwestern Conference, the Suburban League, and the Great Lakes Conference. We also have a special guest today. We have quarterback Charlie Bubonics from Solon, one of a long line of Bubonics that have come through that system. So I'll talk to him about the Solon Comets and their start to the season as well. And then we will go through our SOT featured games of the week. We had 2 great games on the docket there. And then last and certainly not least, we're going to try this out. We'll see how this goes. We will have our initial veiling of the Power 10 for Sports on Tap. So it's a poll strictly of teams that are in the coverage areas of Sports on Tap. So out of 41 teams, we have 10 teams that we have considered our top 10, and we have a couple on the bubble as well. So we'll go through the initial rankings. I'm sure we'll have a spirited discussion about that, and we'll see how it shapes up. So we always start with the Greater Cleveland Conference, and let's do that right now. Josh Jeffy, guns blazing, literally. Let's see what he does here. The Greater Cleveland Conference. Take it away, Josh.
Thank you very much, Ed. On that one, get yourself a drink. You deserve it. of water or chocolate milk, whatever you so desire. Maybe even get yourself a little bit of popcorn. That might be good with a nice little snack for you. We're going to start with, we had one game featuring a GCC team on Saturday, and it wasn't much of a game if you're a Euclid Panther fan. St. Ignatius took on Euclid, and St. Ignatius came away with a 38-0 victory. For Euclid, they were in their own territory almost the entire first half. They weren't able to get much going on the offensive end. They could not capitalize on quite a few St. Ignatius penalties and turnovers. Coach Chuck Howe for the St. Ignatius Wildcats was not happy, by the way, how their team was playing. They felt they played a little sloppy, but their defense, though, for St. Ignatius, you can't really argue to what they did. They held the Euclid Panthers to 16 rushing attempts for negative 19 yards. It's one of their best defensive performances in over 2 years for Ignatius. They improved to 3-0 on the season. Euclid still looking for that first win. They dropped to 0-4. Kind of another surprising game. Football North out of Clarkson in Ontario. They came down to Menor and defeated the Cardinals 48-28 on this one. And this was a close game to start, during the first half. At the half, it was 21-21. But just Euclid could not get, Menor could not get a lot going. They had trouble finishing off their drives. However, Mitchell Waite did have 3 rushing touchdowns in this game. Jacob Snow added a 1-yard touchdown run for this one. But turnovers hurt the Cardinals. They gave up 2 late scores in this game. And Football North comes down, avenges last year's 41-19 loss. With that loss, Menor drops to 2-2 on the year. Football North improves to 2-2. Getting off the schneid is the Brunswick Blue Devils. They had traveled to Toledo Waite, and they came away with a 48-12 victory over Waite. Brunswick was up 28-6 after the first quarter. So they had all 3 phases going, according to Coach Benzoni from his interview with the Medina Gazette. He was very happy on how all 3 units really played in this one. They had a 55-yard punt return for a touchdown in this one. They had field goals of 36 and 30 yards, and they were 6 for 6 on extra points, which is really good on that one. The defense held Waite to negative 38 yards rushing and only 133 yards passing. And we knew kind of coming into this year that the Blue Devils would have a solid defense. Landon Case had 2 interceptions for the Blue Devils. The running attack was really good also for the Blue Devils. Hunter Neal had 2 touchdowns. Jane Burgers had 80 yards. And most of the second half, the Blue Devils backups played, and they got some good quality time. But give props to sophomore quarterback Ethan Roxandich. Not death-defying numbers or the kind of numbers that we've seen from, let's say, Danny Stoddard. But you know what? You're a sophomore. You get your first victory. He had 5 rushes, 36 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he was 9 of 13 for 110 yards and a touchdown. And for that, he was my G&G Fitness Player of the Week nominee for the Greater Cleveland Conference. I'm not going to lie to you. There's a little bit of Brunswick bias for me since, 3 out of 4 of us went there. But congratulations to the Blue Devils and especially Ethan Roxandich for getting his first victory, which hopefully there'll be many more to come, maybe this year and slowly in the future. Now on to the Medina Air Bees. They continued their air raid with a 55-21 victory over Stowe. Medina improves to 3-1 on the year. So Stowe drops to 1-3. Now let's go through some of the offensive numbers because that's what Medina does. They are the Air Bees. Danny Stoddard scored on a 13-yard rushing touchdown in the first minute and 36 seconds of the game to open the scoring. That was on his way to being 28 of 41 for 386 yards, 5 touchdowns. He also added 33 yards rushing with that 1 touchdown we talked about. Danny Stoddard had 18 touchdowns so far in 4 games for the Air Bees. Austin Knowles with 8 receptions, 124 yards, 2 touchdowns. And this was on Fox 8 Friday Night Touchdown. They had a good view of his OBJ-style one-handed grab into the end zone. It was an awesome catch, really athletic play, really helping out Danny Stoddard. Brennan Schramm, 7 receptions, 81 yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had a visit down to Columbus at The Ohio State University, so we'll keep our tabs on that one. Carlos Corchado, name that we have not yet mentioned, but he came through big for the Air Bees, 6 receptions, 90 yards, and a touchdown. Let's get props to the Medina defense as well. They added 5 sacks in this game. Once again, coming away with a 21 victory for the Bees. A little side note, congratulations to Medina Arabi alum Drew Allar through his first touchdown pass this past week for the Penn State Nittany Lions. That's a big deal. So I think people are very excited for him down there at Penn State. I'm sure teams like Notre Dame would like to have a quarterback like Drew Allar there, but we'll save that for another day. The only conference matchup we had in the Greater Cleveland Conference was the Solon Comets against the Strongsville Mustangs, and the Solon Comets come away with a hard-fought 10-0 victory over the Mustangs. Solon improves to 3-1. Strongsville does drop to 2-2. The Comets defense has given up 28 points all year, including 2 shutouts, and so far they have a streak going of 6 quarters without giving up a point. So we talked about Avon Lake earlier in this year going 11 quarters without giving up any points. Solon's on that way with 6 quarters with no points. They had 3 interceptions in this game. Strongsville never crossed midfield, and those 2 of those interceptions were by cornerback Max Thompson. Solon scored on a 34-yard field goal, and Charlie Bubonics, who will be on later in the show, hit Brian McQuaid from 12 yards out, and that completed the scoring for the Comets. Once again, my G&G Fitness Player of the Week nominee is Brunswick's quarterback Ethan Roxandich. The schedule for the Greater Cleveland Conference next week: Solon will travel to Cathedral Prep, that is in Pennsylvania. A couple conference games: Strongsville will travel to Medina, Euclid will travel to Brunswick, and Mentor could not find an opponent for week 5, so they are actually on a bye this week. So that wraps up week 4 in the GCC. Ed, throw it back to you.
I will also give props to Brunswick. Really, yeah, there's a little bit of bias there. Not kidding about that. But congratulations to Blue Devils. Good to get off the schneid there, get their first victory. I would do a special shout out to both the kickers. I had a chance to take a look at them during the course of camp. William Berger hit all 6 extra points. He's a junior, and Vincent Tedoro is a freshman, knocking through 36 and 30 yards. I'll say I've said this before on the show about some of my previous kickers and how they have done, or at least I've said it in some form or fashion. Vincent will probably break most of the school records for Brunswick kicking. It's very I've never seen a freshman do this, and he's a stud already as a freshman. So great job with Blue Devils. Josh, real quick, we're really just about to get in the conference play here. What's a team like Solon need to do to continue on their path? Because right now, them and Strongsville are both 3-1, and Medina for that matter. What do you think Solon? Because we're talking to Charlie Bubonics later. What do you think they need to do to separate themselves from the pack?
Well, Strongsville's 2-2, so I'll quickly
correct
you
my fault.
on that one. Yeah, that's no problem. I don't know. I think kind of the top 2 teams right now are Medina and Solon, and they're totally opposites in terms of their strengths. Obviously, we talk about Medina. You're going to talk about their air raid offense, 5 wide, throw the ball, quick scoring. But Solon, we're kind of talking about their defense, and their defense has only given up 28 points all year, including 2 shutouts. So, these 2 are on a collision course here. Let me see the notes. I think they actually play. They actually play week 10. So that could be a possible game of the week, possible conference championship on the line. Who knows? I mean, the GCC has been really weird this year. You've had your Brunswick and Euclids who, are kind of struggling a little bit, but then there's a couple teams in the middle there, and then you have a couple that are not totally separating themselves, but are kind of doing it. So I don't know. These next couple weeks are going to really see, as we get into conference play, who's going to kind of extend themselves. Right now, you can't get a really big read on anyone.
Fair enough. And Mentor's got a rare bye week right in the middle of the season, so they're going to have 2 weeks to prepare for Brunswick to try to avenge their loss from last year as well. All right, Josh, great job on the Greater Cleveland Conference. Let's shift over to Rob Troutman. He's going to take care of things here in the Southwestern Conference.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. And we'll start first in the Southwestern Conference, the North Ridgeville Rangers. And this is a story that keeps getting better and better. They beat Amherst in Amherst 34-3 in this one. The Rangers, though, they had 3 first-half turnovers in this one. And the Comets, they offensively actually led some nice drives in this that led to a 36-yard field goal by Nathan Stewart. The Comets, then they did stop North Ridgeville, and they had another great job, or a great drive, rather, but it was the Ridgeville defense that stopped the Comets. And the Comets, they were going to kick a field goal here. North Ridgeville, I believe, called timeout, and they came back and went for it, and the Ridgeville defense stopped them. So it was a huge stop, and they only led 3-0. Then 3 plays later, though, it was Rangers quarterback Brendan Watchhorn who hit wide receiver Mason Worcester with a short pass, but it was a short pass that turned into 86 yards, a catch and run. And that really got the Rangers going on offense because that changed the game as freshman running back Zach Barnhart, he would score a touchdown, and the defense, they got another turnover on the Comets. The Rangers defense, they held Amherst to minus 25 yards rushing in the second half and only 21 yards passing in the second half. And it was North Ridgeville Rangers running back Zach Barnhart. He had 128 yards rushing and he had 128 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns on the night. So he continues to get better and better. But North Ridgeville's offense has been pretty potent, not only running the football, they've been passing, and now they improve to 4-0 on the season, 1-0 in conference here as the Rangers. They have their best start since 2009, and during that time, that's when the Rangers won their first 5 games. So let's see what they do coming up here in Week 5. Amherst fell to 0-4 on the season. Now, the big game that we all wanted to see, Avon against Avon Lake in a rivalry game. And this one was really close late into the third quarter. It was 21-21 in this game, but it was Avon quarterback Sam Ditillio. He scored 2 rushing touchdowns in this one and also had 293 yards passing and 2 touchdowns through the air. He was a difference maker in this game. He did have 2 interceptions, but he didn't let that stop him because he really led this offense. And Jacorian Caffey, he didn't have a huge game. I believe he had 98 yards rushing in this one, but Avon really won this game on the ground. Avon Lake, though, they did play tough up through the third quarter. It was running back Wade Nelson. He had an 81-yard touchdown run and I believe a 96-yard kick return for a touchdown. So Avon wins this one, though, 42-21, and both teams now 3-1 as Avon, fell to Glenville, and Avon Lake now with the Avon loss, both teams at 3-1 on the season. Moving along to Berea-Midpark and Elyria. This was a great game, and turnovers early hurt the Titans, but they were able to hold on to a 34-32 win over Elyria at Elyria. What a game this one was. As Berea-Midpark now at 2-2. But early on, again, like I said, the turnovers hurt the Titans, but Berea-Midpark did have a 28-18 lead at halftime here. Elyria, though, they would score twice in the third quarter, as we all heard his name before, Lance Glover, the running back. He continued his hot streak of running as he scored from 7 yards out and converting on a 2-point conversion. He would have 159 yards on 30 carries in this game. For the Titans, it was quarterback Troy Schick. He would have the last laugh is he had a 6-play, 45-yard drive that would result in a touchdown pass to wide receiver Austin Clay. Hudson Devins, we've heard of him before, the running back for the Titans. He scored on a 70-yard kick return. And for Elyria's quarterback Klotz, who hooked up with Dalen Beckett, scoring from Elyria. But Elyria just couldn't get enough as they fall 34-32. Both teams at 2-2. The Titans at 2-2 and Elyria at 2-2. Now, Midview and Olmsted Falls. This one I thought would be a little bit closer here, but Olmsted Falls, man, they're not messing around. They try to jump out on you early and don't really let you get back in the game, and that's kind of what they did here. And Olmsted Falls, their offensive line has been so impressive as the running game. They piled up 184 yards in the first half in this game. It was running back Rocco Conti. He had 116 yards rushing. Michael Candow had 41 yards rushing and 80 yards receiving. And how about quarterback Jimmy Rossell? He completed 6 passes for 142 yards, including a 46-yard touchdown pass, while running for 12 yards and a touchdown. Olmsted Falls in this one, they led 34-0 at halftime. So they really jumped out early on in this game and really didn't let Midview get into it. But for Midview, a sophomore running back, Cameron West, he had a 76-yard touchdown run for the Middies. And the Middies, they finished with 217 yards of offense. But again, it was Olmsted Falls who dominated this game. It was 47-10 the final. Olmsted Falls improves to 3-1 as Midview falls to 1-3 on the season. The G&G Fitness Player of the Week is Avon quarterback Sam Ditillio. He led his team with 2 touchdowns, 293 yards passing, 38 yards rushing, and 2 touchdowns on the ground. So he had 2 passing, 2 running, and not to mention he led his team to a 42-21 win over a very, very good Avon Lake team. So that was a big win for Avon as they continue their dominance there. Now in Week 5, some of the matchups to look at in the Southwestern Conference, you have Amherst taking on Midview. They'll travel to Midview. That should be a really good game. Avon Lake versus Berea-Midpark. Elyria will travel to Avon, and Olmsted Falls travels to North Ridgeville. So that is going to be a really good test that I'm interested to see and watch for the Rangers, because now they're getting into even bigger competition with Olmsted Falls, the Bulldogs, who are 3-1 on the season. And North Ridgeville, a very young team, but obviously the stage hasn't really bothered them too much. Now let's see if they get down versus Olmsted Falls, if it's too much and they can't come back, or if they fight and battle in these games. Because right now you can tell Coach Morgan has them believing at a very high level. Their confidence level is probably at an all-time high right now. And Elyria coming off of a tough loss, versus Berea-Midpark. Can they bounce back at a very tough Avon? But there's some really good games in the Southwestern Conference to keep an eye on and try to get out and go watch this week.
No doubt, Rob. And right now, North Ridgeville is the only undefeated team left in the Southwestern Conference from non-conference and conference play. We'll talk a little bit more about North Ridgeville in the Power 10, if you will. But if we're talking, Berea-Midpark has, they started out 0-2. They picked up a couple of good wins, and even their losses they were competitive in. When you look at Berea-Midpark, I mean, they're going to come up against probably an angry Avon Lake team that was almost they were immovable for the first 3 weeks, and then Avon hangs 42 on them. I'm intrigued by this game. What do you think? What are your thoughts about the Berea-Midpark Avon Lake game?
Yeah, I think Avon Lake's defense, I mean, the last 2 games before Avon, they were absolutely dominant. They, I think, only allowed 6 points in the 2 games. But remember last year, Berea-Midpark actually went to Avon Lake and defeated the Shoremen. So I think Avon Lake is going to have a little bit of revenge on their mind here. You have to have a short memory in the Southwestern Conference. But like you said, Berea-Midpark, they dropped some tough games early on. I mean, they played a really good Highland team early in the season. Game 1, we were able to cover that one, and that was a great game. But, that's the first game of the season. Now they have 2 wins under their belt. They have a little bit of confidence. We know Coach Hunick is going to get these guys to say, you know what, you guys can beat anybody. Now's the time to really get on that hot streak. And they're at home, so you got to take advantage there. There's going to be a great crowd on Friday night, but you better believe Avon Lake and the Shoremen are going to come in and look to really bounce back, because last year they got on a little bit of a tumble, and this year they're hoping to not repeat that. So that's, like you said, that's going to be a really good matchup. There's a lot of good matchups, I feel like, in the division, in the conference this week.
Well, I want to see how Elyria is going to respond, because before the season started, they were kind of the quiet pick to have a really solid year and maybe fight for a conference championship. And so far they're 2-2 on the year, and their 2 wins have come against teams that are currently 1-3, both teams. Mm-hmm. And their 2 losses have come against, teams with 500 or winning record, or 2 winning records. So now they're coming in to play with Avon, And then next week they got Olmsted Falls. So these next two games for Elyria, I think, will be a telltale sign of their season.
Absolutely.
All right, the Southwestern Conference, great job on that, Rob. And we're going to shift quickly over to the Suburban League. We'll start with the American Division with my cohort, my compadre, my colleague, Sean Duffy.
Thank you, Ed. And as always, thank you to everyone for tuning in on YouTube. Starting off in the American Division, we're going to go around and watch Aurora travel to take on Copley. And I had, this pegged as a game that might be a shootout. And, well, it just was not that, as Aurora opens conference play with a 63-28 drubbing of Copley. Aurora quarterback Matt Geyer finished this game with 188 yards rushing and 4 rushing touchdowns to go with his 79 yards passing and 1 passing touchdown. Aurora running back, not to be outdone, also kicked in 188 yards rushing, but only had 2 touchdowns on the night to go with his quarterback's 4 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. Copley's quarterback and star, DeJuan Owens, finished the night 25 of 37 with 244 yards, 1 pass touchdown, and 3 rushing touchdowns as well, but it just wasn't enough as Aurora gets the 63-28 victory to open conference play at 1-0. Barberton traveled into Kent Roosevelt, and Barberton gets back on the winning side of the ledger with a 30-7 victory over the Kent Roosevelt Rough Riders. Barberton's defense picked up where it left off when they played Stowe. However, the past couple weeks have let teams get a hold of them, and they were able to clamp down on Kent Roosevelt in week 4. Moving on to Revere, traveling in to take on Cuyahoga Falls, and this game was pretty tight going into the fourth quarter. It wasn't until Revere running back Rowan Klein scored late in the fourth quarter to give the Revere a 21-7 victory in this game. Both Revere running backs Rowan Klein and Zach, and again I apologize, Aleknowitz, combined for 198 total yards and 2 touchdowns on the night, one of those being, again, in the fourth quarter. Cuyahoga Falls' only score came on an 8-yard touchdown run from Valentino Cargill. But as I said, Revere ends up walking away with this one for their second victory on the year. They get the win 21-7. The next game on my slate here is one of our spotlight games, so I'll touch on it lightly, is Highland traveling in to take on Talmadge, and Highland comes away with a 27-7 victory over Talmadge. The Blue Devils were held in check by a superb defensive effort by the Hornets, but we'll get to that as we go over our spotlight games. The National Division, starting out, Wadsworth traveling into Brecksville to take on the Bees of Brecksville. And, Wadsworth made a statement in this game as they took care of business with a 56-0 domination of the Brecksville Bees. Wadsworth running back, I can't read my own writing at this point. I apologize. He finished with 76 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Backup quarterback Will Stack got his second start of the year and went 8 of 12 for 182 yards and 2 passing touchdowns, and also chipped in for 68 yards rushing and 1 rushing touchdown to boot. But this was Wadsworth from the beginning, as they come away with a 56-0 victory. Twinsburg traveled into Hudson, and Hudson opens up conference play with a 31-13 win over Twinsburg. Hudson quarterback Jagger Pillay finished the game with 8 of 10 passing for 93 yards and 1 passing touchdown. He also had a rushing touchdown on the night. Hudson running back Ian Ludwig had 17 carries for 98 yards and also had a touchdown. Twinsburg was paced by running back Steve Comack, who had 2 touchdowns total, 1 rushing, 1 receiving. As Hudson gets the 31-13 victory in that one. North Royalton traveled to take on Nordonia, and Nordonia continues to dominate the National Division as they roll North Royalton 37-14. This game was tight as North Royalton running back Syed Abu Hamde did pace the Bears with 108 yards and 1 touchdown, but Joey Palinkas just decided to go off again as he did last week, as he went 21 of 27 for 358 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a rushing touchdown as well. Nordonia running back Zach Zender had 56 yards rushing and 1 touchdown on the night. Again, North Royalton gets dominated by Nordonia. Final game on the slate was a non-conference matchup. Josh did touch on this in the GCC. It was Medina 55 and Stowe 21. Man, Stowe's having a tough go of it this year, falling to 1-3 on the year. In the loss, quarterback Jacob Harrington for Stowe did have 2 passing touchdowns, one to Brandon Grace, the other to Tyler Harrington, but it just wasn't enough to keep up with those Air B's of Medina as they've come to be known.
Let it roll off the tongue, Sean. Just let it roll off the tongue.
It's a lot harder to do that. So that's what we have for week 4. Looking ahead to week 5, we'll start off in the American Division. Cuyahoga Falls travels to take on Aurora. Copley will travel in to take on Kent Roosevelt. Highland goes on the road again to take on Barberton, and Revere will go to Talmadge. In the National Division, we have Brecksville. The Bees travel to take on Stowe. Twinsburg travels to take on Nordonia. The non-conference game is Akron East traveling to take on North Royalton at Serpentini Stadium. And the big one here is Hudson traveling to take on Wadsworth in week 5. Ed, back to you.
Thank you, Sean. Great job as always. The Suburban League is really starting to get into conference play. You're starting to see some of the levels separate in both divisions. Really with who we think could compete for a conference championship and who maybe working towards just program development at this point. Let's talk quickly in the American Division right now. Highland is Highland's kind of the class of the division at the moment, and as you said, they went to Talmadge and came away with a tough victory over a very, very good Blue Devils team down there. Who do you think is right now? Who do you think stands in their way, or who can maybe sneak up on them and maybe give them a game that maybe they may not? Who can give them a game?
Well, looking at the American Division, and I'm glad you brought up Highland because I wanted to also make sure that I recognize my nominee for the G&G Fitness Player of the Week, and that's running back Luke Stiles, who finished the game with 157 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns on the night. When you look at a team like Highland, they have a very simple formula. It is dominate defensively and run the ball and control the clock. They're not going to take the top off the defense throwing it vertically. So that's something to keep in mind. If I'm looking at the schedule coming up, Talmadge was a test, but I think their biggest test right now is going to come in the form of Aurora. Aurora seems to be rounding into the team I think a lot of people thought they were going to be. I think those setbacks earlier in the year against non-conference play kind of woke them up because they just keep getting better. They just keep getting better every week, and they keep putting up gaudy numbers. They have to host Cuyahoga Falls next week. Cuyahoga Falls is not an easy out by any means. They're a good team, but I think Aurora and Highland are probably the 2 teams that are on a collision course for each other going forward in this division. The same can also be said for a team like Nordonia. I think Nordonia and the winner of the Hudson Wadsworth is probably going to be on the crash course for that division as well. I don't see any other teams really kind of getting there. Chaos could spread through this Suburban League National Division. I just think Nordonia, unless they lose one that we just don't expect right now, Joey Palinkas is playing at a great level, and that defense is keeping people in check all throughout every game they play.
Yeah, it's going to be the Suburban League is always a tough one. It's a grind, and we'll definitely start seeing more teams separate themselves as the season wears on as well. All right.
Ed, speaking of a meat grinder, let's talk a little bit about the Great Lakes Conference. And the only person I can think of that can give us the straight skinny on the Great Lakes Conference is one, Edward Dick. Ed, take it away.
Thank you, Sean. I appreciate that. All right, let's get to it here. The first game that's on the slide here is one of the featured games of the week. The North Olmsted Eagles come away with a 40 28 victory over the Buckeye Bucks. What a great game this was. And we'll hear more about this game here in a little bit. I believe Rob was out at that game, and he'll be able to provide a little bit more with that. What I will say is that recent guest of the week, recent Sports on Tap guest, Jared Kelly, had himself a game, and so did our Great Lakes Conference Player of the Week. It's going to be North Olmsted quarterback Xavier Balsam. He had 284 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. He also had 50 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. I do want to, and Rob will talk about this more, but I do want to recognize the North Olmsted defense was outstanding. They sat Casey Murray 12 times in that game. He had him running for his life. And the fact that Buckeye was so able to put up 28 points against that type of a defense, it gives a real credit to the Bucks. So with the win, North Olmsted improves to 2-2 overall. Buckeye drops to 3-1 with their first loss of the season. A game played Thursday night between the Normandy Invaders and the Fairview Warriors. Normandy sophomore quarterback Elijah Gray completed 8 of 14 passing for 126 yards and a touchdown. He also rushed 12 times for 124 yards and 3 touchdowns. He got some help from running back Curtis Starks. Curtis Starks had 2 carries for 105 yards and a touchdown. That is efficiency at its finest. For Fairview, it was junior running back Quinn Bruder. He had 28 yards on 6 carries. He also had 2 catches for 14 yards. And Fairview's only touchdown, Normandy runs absolute roughshot over the Warriors, 42-7. Normandy races their record to 3-1 overall. Fairview drops to 1-3. Let's shift over to Elyria Catholic takes on Holy Name. Holy Name had a week off in week 3. So they had 2 weeks to prepare for the Panthers, but you can never really prepare for what Levi Ellis can do to a team. He rushed 23 times for 260 yards and 3 touchdowns that covered 9, 59, and 84 yards. Tavion Thomas, his backfield mate, also got a 2-yard touchdown run to make up the scoring for the Panthers. Holy Name's Javon Williams, he had 2 rushing touchdowns of 20 and 67 yards himself, but wasn't enough. Elyria Catholic gets a 28-14 victory over the Green Wave. Elyria Catholic moves to 3-1 overall. Holy Name drops to 1-2. Levi Ellis and Jared Kelly at this point now, they could be players of the week any week, but we got to spread the love around here. So Xavier Balsam is certainly a worthy candidate of that. All right, we'll shift over to a game played on Saturday. It was Westlake taking on Parma at Byers Field. It was an all public school affair for Byers Field this weekend between Normandy, Valley Forge, and Parma. On Saturday, Westlake came to Byers Field to take on the Redmen. Will Ostrowski, he had 201 yards total for the Demons. He had 8 catches for 115 yards and a score. He also scored on a fumble recovery and a kickoff return for a touchdown. He scored in all 3 phases of the game. That is some impressive stuff there for the Demons. Westlake quarterback Sam Brucieri passed for 224 yards. Andrew Palka and Arrington Taylor each had 9 tackles for the Demons. Westlake pummels the Redmen 49-7. Westlake improves to 3-1 overall. Parma drops to 0-4. Rocky River took on Lakewood. Rocky River looking for their first victory of the year. And when you're in trouble, you always turn to a BB. And senior running back Johnny Beebe, he had 16 rushes for 225 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also had a catch for 10 yards. Rocky River also got a 15-yard touchdown run. One of his touchdowns covered 15 yards. Julian Patty also got a touchdown run for Rocky River. Sophomore Josh Mammers led the team with 10 tackles. Rocky River does some damage to the Rangers, 38-12. They get their first win of the year. They are now 1-3. Lakewood falls to 2-2. Last and certainly not least on the docket, Valley Forge took on Bay. This was a blowout for the Patriots. 42-14 victory for Valley Forge. For Valley Forge, it was Connor Posniak scored from 51 yards out on a rush. Danny Keywell threw for 2 touchdowns and rushed for another. I'm not sure how to pronounce this. I'm going to give it a shot. Takier Coles had an 86-yard pick six for the Patriots. That was an impressive run. Haven't seen that on film. Shane Warden rushed 16 times for 102 yards and a touchdown for the Patriots. For Bay, Brennan Spellman got a 4-yard touchdown run, but it wasn't enough. Valley Forge moves to 3-1 on the season. Bay falls to 2-2. Again, our Great Lakes Conference Player of the Week nominee for G&G Fitness Equipment is North Olmsted quarterback Xavier Balsam. Again, 284 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and he had 50 yards rushing and also 2 touchdowns. Next week, we are fully into conference play for the Great Lakes Conference. Finally, for the East Division, it will be Buckeye hosting Valley Forge. That both those teams are 3-1. Lots of computer points at stake there. Lakewood travels to Byersfield to take on Normandy. That game will be played on Thursday night. Holy Name will travel to Parma. That game will be played on Friday night. Westlake will travel to Bay. Elyria Catholic will go to Rocky River, and Fairview will travel to North Olmsted. All right, that is it. That's all we got for the Great Lakes Conference. We will, the Buckeye and North Olmsted game was a great game. Rob was going to go over that a little bit, along with our other featured game of the week, which was Highland at Tallmadge. We know the result of that already, but Sean's going to break that game down a little bit more for us as well after we talk to Charlie Bubonics, quarterback from Solon. Real quick for some notes for the Great Lakes Conference. There are no more undefeated teams in Great Lakes Conference. There are multiple 3-1 teams. Buckeye, Elyria Catholic, Valley Forge, Normandy, and Westlake are all 3-1, and we'll certainly see how that shakes out as far as their standings in our Power 10 conference, in our Power 10 rankings coming up here around 8:40ish is when we're going to do the reveal of that. I would say another thing of note. I mean, North Olmsted, they've had a couple of tough losses to what have turned out to be very good teams. There's no shame in losing in Green. They were state semifinalists last week, and we've seen what North Ridgeville is capable of. They're a 4-0 team. There's certainly no shame in losing that game. And every game that North Olmsted wins from here on out just benefits North Ridgeville that much better. I would say the same thing for Valley Forge as well. Valley Forge, their only loss is to North Ridgeville, and every game that they win is going to benefit North Ridgeville there. Rocky River finally, getting that first win. The full credit to this goes to Fox State Friday night touchdown. The commish had a chance to talk to Josh Walls right before the game, and Josh noted, this team wasn't phased; they're ready to go. They're young. Replacing Tommy Beebe certainly is no small feat. They had a lot of good senior leadership last year, and Johnny Beebe went off this week, and we'll see how that progresses over the course of the season. Holy Name. A tough loss to Elyria Catholic. There's no shame in that loss either. But we'll look for Javon Williams and Christian Sanchez and the rest of the Green Wave to get off to a better start there. Westlake 3-1 to start the season there. Great job by the Demons. They've kind of picked up where they left off, especially Will Ostrowski. He was a stud last year, and he has continued to play tough as well. Normandy with a 3-1 start as well. That's probably not one that most of us saw coming, but we'll see how they hold up in conference play. The rest of the Parma teams and Buckeye are no joke when it comes to conference play there. So that's what we have for the Great Lakes Conference in Week 5, and again we will. Before we get Charlie Bubonics on here, let's go back through our sponsors one more time. Again, we are brought to you by RRT Productions. We shoot, we edit, you win. That is www.rrt-productions.com. Ray Felton, State Farm Insurance. I had his stuff up. Where did it go? All right. I think I know the number, actually. It's 234-284-2996. You can reach him out in Hudson, Ohio. Bandwagon Fantasy Sports as well. Make sure you join up. choose teams instead of players for your college football season. GV Artwork, go to gvartwork.com. Use the promo code ONTAP10 for 10% off of your order. And G&G Fitness Equipment, they are our sponsors for the Player of the Week polls that we have at our Twitter page at SOT Podcast. They are at livefit.com. You can also follow them on Twitter at gngfitnessequipment.com. All right, and now we are joined by Solon quarterback Charlie Bubonics, coming off a great win over the Strongsville Mustangs, a 10-0 win for you guys there. Charlie, congrats, great win, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. How you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Doing great.
I mentioned you guys are doing pretty well too right now. A 3-1 start. And the first game was there's no shame in that loss to a Hudson team is playing really well right now. So talk a little about the Strongsville game and how the season's gone for you so far, Charlie.
Well, that Strongsville game, we came out on offense, all right, kind of flat. But this defense has been providing for us all year so far. Only let up 28 points through 4 weeks, which is amazing. So when you have the defense to just carry you like that and let your offense ride and run down that clock in the second half, it's helpful. And then, I feel like that's kind of been the pace the whole season. Defense let up little points, giving us good field position. Offense capitalizing off that. And then, of course, Stowe game, Aaron Teitelbaum making a crazy kick to win it for us. And really a spot that he's never been in, so it's awesome this year. We're on top of the world right now.
Charlie, hey, thanks for joining us. Hey, I wanted to kind of get your thoughts. Kind of made a little bit of news that you guys dropped down into Division II. And when you were in Division I, pretty much everyone made it except for one. Now you have a little more competition there in Division II. I was just curious to, coming into the season with your coach Wisniewski, did the mind frame change any? Did you kind of go into the season with the same kind of focus, or are things just a tad different because competition is a little more heavy? It's going to take more to get into that 16-team playoff bracket.
Yeah, of course. It's a huge change being D1 for I don't know how many years in Solon. But Coach Wiz always harped on, it's not any different. You're still going to come into the season with the same focus, same drive. It doesn't matter who you're playing on Friday night. It just matters how you're going to come out and play. He always, stresses that, it's going to be tighter. It's getting into those playoffs, but he thinks we'll pass that. We'll just keep rolling.
Charlie, you guys, again, congratulations on the success you guys have had early on in the year and how you guys have managed to kind of improve each week. And you mentioned, some of the players on defense that have kind of helped you on the offensive side of the ball kind of find your way a little bit. Who are some of the guys, both on the defensive and offensive side of the ball, that you rely on as a quarterback and a leader of the team?
Of course, my O-line done a great job this year. Rely on those guys every single game.
Smart kid. Always think the offensive line first. Look at that's a quarterback right there. I love it.
Yeah, my running back EJ Taylor also steps in to help. Receivers do their job. But I'm most impressed with our defense here. Our D-line has done crazy things that nobody really saw coming into the season. Guys like Anthony Onyura and Donovan Jackson making plays left and right. And our safety's really stepping up last game especially. 3 picks, and our corners just being locked down all year. Linebackers just doing their jobs, making plays left and right.
Hey, Charlie, talk a little bit about, your defense has been solid. You were talking about some of the players there a second ago. Does that take a little bit of the pressure off of you knowing you have a good defense? This Strongsville game, for example, you guys put up 10 points and got a win. That's pretty remarkable, especially the way your defense has played this year. Does that take some pressure off of you so you don't realize, wow, I don't have to put up, the huge numbers, or I don't have to pass 45 times and put up 300 yards. Instead, you just got to limit your mistakes, and that you have other good offensive players and your offensive line is going to get the job done, but you have a really good defense too.
Yeah, of course. It takes a little bit of pressure off when you're up going into the second half, trying to wind that clock down. But we stressed every week we want to make a statement instead of just pass by these games. We want to put up as many points as we can, And we've stressed all off season, because of last year, keeping that ball on our side and every single drive of the kick. So when we do that, I mean, the ball's in my hands almost every play, so it's on me to take care of that ball. And this year, it's just been something I've focused a lot on. And I don't know, it's kind of taking some of the pressure off, and it's also kind of helping us try to get some more points up there next week.
We're talking with Solon quarterback Charlie Bubonics. Charlie, you guys it's been 2 years now since Coach McQuaid stepped down for being the head coach. But he has handprints all over the program. How do you think how's Coach has anything majorly changed with Coach Wisniewski kind of taking over the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I love Coach McQuaid, athletic director now, steam all the time. And he obviously still plays a part in our program. His son being a receiver, I love Phil too. But Coach Wiz is great. I mean, we all love him. Brings the team together really well. Like, just one of those guys. And then, I mean, the transition's kind of been the same. Solon's always been the same way. Just tough, athletic players that want to win. And I think he harps on that just as Coach McQuaid did and every coach has been in the past. So the transition's been mostly smooth right there.
Yeah,
Charlie, sorry, Ed.
It's one of those things where if it's not broke, don't fix it. I mean, I think Mentor's kind of going through the same thing with Coach Striv and Coach Gray as well. So, I mean, Coach McQuaid, I coached against him for quite a while, and he is a great coach, and Coach Wiss has done a great job as well. Sorry, Josh.
No, that's okay. No, that's a good, valid point. So, Charlie, coming into this year, at the beginning of the season, we talked to a lot of coaches, and this year the offseason started a little sooner, and there was some adjustment that had to be made with coaches and players, and the season started earlier. How did you, for yourself, notice any changes? Did your off-season program change any bit, and what adjustments, if any, did you have to make, and how you feeling more comfortable now that you're almost midway through your season now?
Yeah, I mean, the early start, every day you practice you can get is just a blessing. Way to get out there and just learn the whole offense, the whole defense, everything about it. Every year, though, you wait for that August 1st day. That's the time where you're ready to go. The whole team's pumped up. Last year, we had the midnight practice, but I just think first day of 2 days, everybody's ready to go. And I thought it prepared us way better and came more confident into the season, both sides of the ball.
Charlie, kind of switching gears from last week to looking ahead to this week. I mean, you got a pretty unique opportunity here as you guys are traveling to Pennsylvania to take on a team. Is it Cathedral Prep? Is that you guys are playing?
Yes.
Cathedral Prep. I don't know why I have Cardinal here. One of the things that obviously this is a change in routine for anybody, because again, you're used to traveling and things like that. Is there any special steps you guys are having to take because you guys are going a little, obviously further than you would normally go this week, and does it change your guys' routine at all?
I don't think it changes our mindset, but I mean, we're getting charter buses, getting the whole package, I guess, this week.
Oh.
But yeah, it doesn't change our mindset. Kind of actually, I think, maybe hypes us up a little bit, going to another state and playing some football instead of going outside of like all your GCC opponents and then all of these close opponents you play. So it's kind of out of the box. It's a game we want to win because, I don't know, going on a roll, going to another state, try to prove yourself.
Kind of add to that, Charlie, a lot of Ohio teams have traveled out of state this year, and a lot of Ohio teams have had some success. Have you been keeping track of, those other teams that have gone out of state, and you said you want to kind of like set the tone? Is there kind of like, hey, Ohio football is legit, we want to prove that?
Yeah, that's part of it. I mean, all like the rankings, you can say best states, football, or everything, but Ohio really just wants to prove that they're tough and they play football the right way. And all these teams that play our GCC opponents that play other teams in other states, it's a good feeling to see them win and see Ohio come out on top some of these years.
I was going to say, it's probably pretty fun. You and your teammates, I'm sure you've played with a lot of these guys for a long time, to be able to travel in the road trips and, off season, you guys go to camps and stuff. Does that kind of stuff help you guys bond throughout the season? Especially now, it's kind of getting close to mid-season here, and you get a nice little road trip, so it's kind of, out of the league play a little bit because you're going to be jumping back into that here soon. But it's probably pretty exciting for you. Are you guys bonding over these kind of road trips?
Yeah, I mean, the locker room aspect of our team have been playing together for a while. A lot of seniors. It's amazing. All these trips we take, camps in the summer, a lot of stuff like that has just brought us together. Better than I think I've ever been with my team. I love these guys on my team, like my family out there.
Now, are you the guy that jokes around and keeps it light, or are you the guy that's serious? And obviously, you bring your leadership as a quarterback, but when things are serious or maybe not going the right way, are you the guy that jokes around and try to bring them up, or who's the guy that jokes around and kind of makes people laugh on the team?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of situations. You can be vocal, you can be loud. Depends on the situation, really. But I like to pick our guys up. Times we're down, coming out at halftime against Stowe, down 14-0, not moving the ball well. I remember just like trying to keep people up. It's not a blame this, blame that, or point at you, point at you, but it's more of a, hey, like, we got this. It's be confident, keep playing the way you do first 2 games, and whatever happens after that, that's up to you. But we got guys that are vocal, that'll call you out, that'll hold you accountable, and we got guys that'll joke around and keep the team up. So it's a good balance with our captains, Blake, EJ, and Joel do a great job with it.
Absolutely.
We're talking with Solon quarterback Charlie Bubonics. Charlie, do you play any other sports besides football?
I do. I play baseball in the spring as my second sport. I've been playing since I was a little kid. It's something I love to do. Yeah.
Solon's always been good, too, at baseball. That's for sure.
Yeah. I used to catch, but now I don't anymore. But I play a lot of infield positions, shortstop, second base, a lot of third. I'll pitch sometimes in there, but that's not really my thing.
I'll say, how fast are you throwing if you pitch? What's your fastball? What are you throwing? A fastball, curveball, changeup, or what are we throwing?
Oh, look at this guy! Look at this guy scouting.
Fastball and a not so great curveball, but I kind of just let him hit it, see what my defense can do with it.
That's right. Nothing wrong with that.
Charlie, I can assure you that you could strike any one of us out at any point in time with that curveball or that fastball.
I'll give Rob his due. If Rob is in his prime, he might give you a run for his money.
I'm saying now.
Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah, we all get smoked. Although I haven't seen Rob hit a ball, I'm not really sure. But
let's put it this way: it's been a while. While. The ball's a little bit bigger from the last one I hit.
Charlie, I gotta ask. I went to Mount Union, and there's a good amount of Bubonics that have come through that program. I played with Aaron Bubonics. Is Aaron what relation is Aaron to you, or is he related?
Aaron is my uncle. That's fine. Like close family.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He was a senior on the 2000. I believe he was a senior on the 02 team. I was a freshman. I was a freshman kicker at the time, and he was really nice. I liked him.
That's okay, Ed. You're admitting once again this week that you're old. So last week, Avery Vinecourt called you sir, and now you're going through it again. So thanks, Charlie. We appreciate that. That's another one to the dock.
If the gray on my goatee didn't give it away, then that certainly did. Charlie, I gotta with multi-sport athletes, there's a decent amount of time between the football season and the baseball season. But after baseball season, you're usually transitioning into maybe travel baseball, but then football would start not too long after that. How do you handle the off season, really in the summertime when it comes to baseball and football?
Yeah, my future is to play college football. That's what I believe. And every summer, leading up to this year, I would miss some football days, even though that kills me to miss a day of practice with my guys. But for games and tournaments out of town, you have to. This year, I took football and I put it first. So games, tournaments, I would show up to football as much as I can. I think I missed maybe one day because of out of town tournament. But yeah, I put football first. But love baseball too.
Very good. Well, Charlie, thank you very much for joining us. Great start to the season. Good luck when you guys drive out to Pennsylvania this week. Represent the state well. come back with a W, and hopefully we'll catch up with you either before the end of the season or a little bit afterwards.
All right, thank you. Have a great night, guys.
Yeah, you too. Thanks
Charlie.
for coming on. We appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you. That's quarterback from Solon, Charlie Bubonics, joining us on the show. Just another tremendous student athlete that we've had the opportunity to talk to. Comes from Solon's a great program, and they after a very tough loss to a very good Hudson team, they're starting to catch a little bit of a roll here, and we'll see if they can take that momentum into Pennsylvania to get a victory before they come back and finish their slate out against Ohio teams. All right, we were at the guys were at 2 games this past week. We were at North Olmsted and Buckeye, and then we were also at Highland and Tallmadge. We'll start with the closer game to us in proximity, which was North Olmsted and Buckeye. Rob, you're at that game. Let's talk a little bit about it.
Yeah.
Rob, you're about to do the Buckeye recap.
I might forget after this one, though. Once you
just
start,
letting you
and
know
once
now,
we do
so
the
you
Power
remember.
10. But right now you're seeing some highlights of Buckeye. They have a solid drive, and they're led by junior quarterback Casey Murray. He was running around all night long, and right there is number 42, and you might know him, and he's getting all kinds of publicity after this game. Gavin Beasley. He had 6 sacks in this game alone, but give credit to where credit is due. It was impressive to watch the North Olmsted team play. Jared Kelly was impressive. He's one guy that I think in the first half he was kind of under control a little bit and kind of got moving in the second half. But Xavier Balsam, he's a guy that really led this team. His leadership was very impressive when you look at what he did in this game. I mean, he not only led his team, offensively, but on the sidelines, and he was talking to guys. But Jared Kelly, like I said, they had other weapons. Colin Willard, he had a long touchdown pass. And I was trying to show the video here, but I'm not sure why it's acting up a little bit here. But let's see if we can get out of it quick and see if I can get back into it. But it was impressive, the highlights from the defense of Olmsted, or North Olmsted rather, because Gavin Beasley, you had Gio Rodriguez there, and they really made it tough for the Buckeye offense. They made a lot of big plays chasing the quarterback, Casey Murray. One guy, Troy McCann, he's only a sophomore running back. That's a guy that stood out to me for the Buckeye offense. And Buckeye is a very young team. One thing I think that stands out with Buckeye is their youth. I mean, they didn't give up in this game. They actually were shut out 13-0 at half. And both teams struggled, I thought, a little offensively. It was the second half that came back and really was impressive, because North Olmsted, one thing I thought was good with their team is Buckeye, they were getting on a little bit of a roll. They cut the lead, I believe it was to 7 at one point. And North Olmsted, Jared Kelly stretched the field with his offense and ended up making play after play. They kept responding once that Buckeye kind of made their run. Now, it was Buckeye. They did score 28 points, but 7 of those points were, I believe, with 13 seconds left in the game. The North Olmsted defense kind of played a little bit of not a prevent defense, but they kind of let them go down the field a little bit and let the clock run off. So that was an impressive game for North Olmsted. I think that's going to be their confidence is really soaring, especially Logan Dangerfield, another guy. He was a running back but played linebacker, and I really was impressed with him. Colin Willard's a wide receiver that stretches the field a little bit, and then you have Jared Kelly. I mean, he pretty much does whatever is asked of him, and was a big playmaker. So I was impressed with North Olmsted. Buckeye's a really good young team. I mean, this isn't, to me, North Olmsted had some tough breaks in the first 2 games. They were beating a good North Ridgeville team, and they lost that one in the end. And you mentioned Green. I don't know too much about Green, but I know that they're not a bad football team, and they hung around with them till the end. So overall, it was a great game to be at. North Olmsted's fan base came out. Buckeye's always packed. It was youth night, so kids were lining up, and a lot of little kids are looking around saying, I'm going to play out here on Friday nights. And, that's kind of how it starts. And you could tell with Buckeye, they're always retooling every year and always fighting for that top spot. So we'll see what North Olmsted does the rest of the season, but I think they're going to have a really good season. They're going to be right at the top. It might come down to the EC game, not to look too much ahead, but I think North Olmsted's that good that they could compete.
I agree, Rob. North Olmsted has, North Olmsted's been very tough. Their losses they're good losses. If you can call them good losses,
Yeah.
they're good losses. They're quality opponents. In Buckeye, we know what Buckeye brings to the table, and these are some of the. I would say for North Olmsted, this is one of the humps that they needed to get over in Great Lakes Conference play. The next one will be a team like Elyria Catholic, and some of the other teams in the West Division that maybe they haven't had a whole lot of success against. So I'm sorry, did I interrupt somebody as far as wanting to say something? Okay.
No.
So great job on that, Rob. Again, make sure you check out our website, sportsontap.podcast.com, for all the highlights and the stories for our SOT featured games of the week, along on the Twitter page at SOT Podcast. The other featured game was the Suburban League American Division Tilt in Tallmadge. This is the second time that the Hornets had to play the Blue Devils, just in a different city. And Sean was out there for that game. So Sean, let's take it away.
Yeah, this was I had this pegged as one of the better games of the week, and it turned out to be just that early on, as both teams defensively made really good plays to start off. They both traded interceptions, and it was interesting because I wanted to see how Ty Hurst and Colin Dixon worked together for the Blue Devils of Talmadge. And what struck me the most in this game was the fact that Highland's defense is suffocating. It is well coached, well executed. They did not get down on themselves at all. Ty Hurst was not able to put any sort of momentum together, get in any sort of rhythm passing wise, and they stuffed the run as best as I've ever seen. They were constantly in the backfield, constantly putting pressure, forcing Ty Hurst off of his spot. And you talk about that as a quarterback likes to be in the pocket and make those throws. And if you force him off of that spot that he likes to throw, it causes some errant throws. And when he did that, we saw Highland take advantage by picking Ty Hurst off. And then again, on the offensive side of the ball, it's not rocket science. And we had Coach Gibbons on this podcast early on, and he says that Highland football is smash mouth, and that's exactly what this was. Lucas Stiles is the bell cow, the leader offensively for this team, taking nothing away from Shane Robinson and anyone else who's on that team running the ball. But when Lucas Stiles runs the ball, he runs angry, he runs violent, and it takes more than one guy to bring him down. And what struck me the most was how Highland was able to just run their offense, even when they kind of got behind. They made mistakes. They turned the ball over when they did try and pass the ball. They did not have a lot of success through the air, but they didn't need to have a lot of success through the air because they were able to get 4 or 5 yards a clip. When you look at the Talmadge offense coming into this, they were averaging in the last 3 games 45 points a game. They only scored 7 points, and that was in the first quarter. And that was because of an errant throw made by the quarterback from Highland. I'm forgetting his name. But it was an errant tip pass that got picked off and set Talmadge up. This was after Lucas Stiles ran for 33 yards and after they intercepted Ty Hurst. So it's kind of one of those things. It was back and forth. But, you could really see that the offensive line for Highland was getting a great push all night. And they really did impose their will in the third and the fourth quarter here as they pulled away. And all they had to do was turn and hand the ball to Lucas Stiles. Now, one of the most electrifying plays that I saw on the night was a 62-yard punt return by Matt Ceriac. And it was really cool. And I felt so bad because I was trying to get my camera, and I was in perfect position to see it. The only problem is I thought I was videoing it. Turns out I was just taking a lot of still photos. So I got still photos of Matt Ceriac catching the ball and starting to run, and then realized midway through his 62-yard run that I was not videoing any of this.
Rookie.
Yes, rookie mistake. I blame the phone, but it's really the operator. I get that. But yeah, this was a fantastic effort by Highland, and it really put the rest of the Suburban League American Division on notice, because they're not putting up. I mean, I think they have the ability to put up numbers in the passing game if they needed to, but they are a smash mouth running team, and it is tough to bring those running backs down.
This is why Sean's on our featured game numero 2.
First off, this is
do we have it in the Sports on Tap budget to give Sean a jitterbug phone? Because obviously the smartphones are not working out for him.
I would also like to point out that it was not my issue. There was an issue of coverage and reliability of signal in Talmadge.
Sean, do you still have that pager we gave you?
Yeah, no, we don't. I don't have the pager. You're so hilarious.
Hey, do you think a lot of the players, student athletes that we interview know what a pager is? That's a good question.
That's a poll on Twitter right now. If you're a player, do you know what a pager is?
Well, you know what, Rob? It's funny that you bring up polls, because we do a poll here at Sports on Tap every week to find out who of our nominees is our G&G Fitness Player of the Week. And I want to kick it to our Senior Vice President of Social Media, also kind of a jerk, and likes to make fun of people when they're in a spot where they don't have a lot of cell phone coverage. I'm going to kick it to Josh Jeffy to give us the results of our G&G Fitness Player of the Week poll. Take it away, you big
Let's go, Sam. Come on, Sam. Let's go, baby.
Josh, let me know when you're ready when you want.
All right.
Let me know when
real
you want
quickly, we will rehash the nominees. From the GCC, it was Brunswick quarterback Ethan Roxandich. From the Suburban League, it was Highland running back Lucas Stiles. From the Southwestern Conference, it was Sam Ditillio, quarterback. And from the Great Lakes Conference, it was quarterback Xavier Balsam from North Olmsted. Now,
all great candidates.
Yeah, really great candidates. And the Brunswick faithful came out in this one for most of the day yesterday. That's when the poll goes up on our Twitter page at SOT Podcast. Most of the day, Ethan only had like 2% of the votes. Then whatever happened Sunday night, Brunswick faithful came through. So, Ed, you can go ahead and show the results with 634 total votes.
Wow.
Ethan Roxandich with 56.5% of the votes. Followed by Lucas Stiles, Xavier Balsam, and then followed up by Sam Ditillio. So the Brunswick faithful came out strong.
How many times are they allowed to vote?
Once. You get one vote. So
okay, that's fair.
You know, maybe the Brunswick bias is a little strong on this show. Wow. So
I didn't want to say it. First time we had a Brunswick player as a Player of the Week candidate, and he runs away with it.
Truth be told, kind of behind the curtain, every week we put the poll up. I do vote for GCC members because that's the conference that I cover. It just so happens that this week it was Ethan from Brunswick. So congratulations, Ethan Roxandich from Brunswick.
Job.
You are Week 4 G&G Fitness Player of the Week. Now let's get to the nitty gritty. Ed,
let's get down to it.
Let's get it.
Oh man, I am so nervous right now. I'm biting my nails.
You should be nervous.
I can't believe. I can't wait to see who's number one. That looks like he's sweating over there.
I'm not sweating at all.
Nervous.
I can defend all of this because I did it.
I love it.
All right.
So,
should I do a drum roll or what should I do?
Before we go ahead with Ed's
oh wow! Those guys are on the bubble.
The top 10, and here
Holy
is the
cow.
bubble.
You're
that
kidding.
we call teams that are on the outside looking in.
What?
So these are teams that are on the outside looking in that our mad scientist, our stats guru, Edward Dick, puts this together for us. He takes all this data, he puts it into the Ed Dick hopper, and he comes out and it shoots out the top 10, and then he gives us a little bit of an aperitif, if you will, an appetizer of teams that are on the outside looking in. So, Ed, take it away.
All right, these are your three teams that are on the bubble, on the cusp, whatever, outside looking in, what have you. The Menor Cardinals are number 11. Olmsted Falls is number 12. Wadsworth is number 13. I want to preface this by saying the way that this is being, this may not be as conventional as you may think. Wins, strength of schedule, and where you're at in computer points plays a big part of as to where you're at in these rankings. So you may notice there could be some 3-1 teams that aren't going to be listed here. All 3-1 teams are not created equal for the purposes of this. Certainly not denigrating them. Winning your first 3 games winning 3 out of 4 is not an easy thing to do. But other teams have also won 3 out of 4 or won them all. Specific to Menor, the reason why they're right here, we all know what Menor is capable of. Their 2 losses are to St. Ignatius, which is steamrolling teams, and the prep team out of Canada, which, I mean, if you're playing a prep team, they're not exactly 18 years old. They could be upwards of 19 or 20 years old. So they're playing literal grown men. So Menor, a lot of this is based, at least for Menor's sake. They're a very good team. We all know this. And they've had a couple of tough losses. So that's why they are on the outside looking in. That's why they're a little bit above Olmsted Falls and Wadsworth. Olmsted Falls and Wadsworth. Olmsted Falls is obviously a very, very good team as well. They are proven time in and time out. Their wins right now are over teams that don't have a whole lot of computer points. Although their one loss is to defending 2-time state champion, the Chardon Hilltoppers. So there's no shame in that one. So the point of these teams being where they are, once their conference schedule really starts ramping up and they play some teams that are probably ahead of them, it's very easy for them to move up into the top 10. The same with Wadsworth. Wadsworth's only loss right now is to Medina. But they're on a roll right now, and they have a good chance here against Hudson to prove their mettle a little bit there. So that is 11, 12, and 13.
And Ed, before we get into the Power 10, let's once again tell people this is strictly for teams in the Greater Cleveland Conference, Southwestern Conference, Great Lakes Conference, and Suburban League, the 4 conferences that we cover. So we know there's a lot of teams in our area that deserve to be ranked, but these are just for our 41 teams that we cover. So I just want to throw that out there.
Correct. Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that, because just those of you who are maybe watching this for the first time, St. Ignatius and St. Ed's will not be in this. Chardon and Riverside will not be in this. Mayfield, teams like Cleveland Heights. Cleveland Heights, next year they will.
Yeah. I think that's why they changed conferences, isn't it, to be in the Power 10 possibly?
Same with Shaker Heights. So that's a very good distinction to make here as we move through these. So, all right, let's go to the Power 10. Big ups to Sean on this one. The number 10 team is the Elyria Catholic Panthers. 3-1 overall. They are 0-0 in conference play. They are so far. Their only loss right now is to Sandusky Perkins. They do have wins over Division I Elyria, and they just took out a very tough Holy Name team as well. So for that, the Great Lakes Conference gets a little bit of representation here on the board. Next, the Buckeye Bucks. They just suffered a loss against a very game North Olmsted team, but Buckeye also has a win over a 3-1 Cloverleaf team and a couple other decent victories as well. I think North Olmsted had their number, and it'll be, we'll see how they bounce back. Again, traditionally a very solid team. They ran into a little bit of a buzzsaw this past week, so Buckeye right now is going to be the number 9 team out of these standings here. Also, they have a pretty good amount of computer points as well, relatively speaking. Next, the Talmadge Blue Devils. They do have a victory over Green, and that's their big win right now. Talmadge is looking pretty good so far. Again, they ran into a buzzsaw in the Highland Hornets, but Talmadge Ty Hurst has started out the year really, really hot, and and Highland at this point can play and beat almost anybody, which you may or may not see a little bit later in this poll. I'll stop at the top 5 after we get to 6 so we can talk about this a little bit. Number 7, the North Ridgeville Rangers come in at number 7.
Wow.
Now, you look at North Ridgeville, and sure they beat Amherst last week, but they also have victories over North Olmsted and Valley Forge, and those two teams are going to win a lot more games this year, and that's just going to continue to boost up their profile. Again, if you go undefeated, you're going to find your way into the top 10. And right now they're also sitting, I believe they're number 2 or number 3 in Division 2 region. They're number 2 in Division 2 Region 6 for computer points at the moment. So they deserve to be recognized for their efforts. They're 4-0 for the first time in 13 seasons. So for that reason, they're number 7 in this list. Number 6, the Nordonia Knights, also undefeated right now. They've started out very, very hot. You thought you didn't know if there'd be any sort of a drop off given how given what they lost last year, but Joey Palinkas has picked right up, has picked things up. They have wins over Berea-Midpark, Mayfield, and North Royalton. Mayfield is 3-1 right now. They're getting helped out there. Berea-Midpark's going to start winning some games too. That game could have gone either way. And then North Royalton, we'll see what they do in conference play, but North Royalton gave them all they can handle for a little bit there as well. So right now, those are our top. So those are 6 through 10, gentlemen. We have some time. What are your thoughts?
Immediately off the bat, again, I was the one that put this in together when you sent this to me earlier. I think it was yesterday or today. What jumped off the page at me is North Ridgeville at 7. That's a pretty good ranking for a team that not a lot of people had any expectations of them coming into this year. I think we were kind of wait and see approach. The other thing was, I'm reserving judgment till I see the top 5, but I think the Nordonia Knights are maybe a little bit lower than I thought they would be, just given kind of how they've buzzed through a lot of the teams they've played, and they've been very impressive on both sides of the ball. But those are out of those first 5, those are the only 2 that really gave me pause. I mean, Elyria Catholic, maybe, but again, I think they have more in front of them than they have behind them. I think Midview wasn't exactly the strongest of games that or strongest of teams that they could have played, but those are the 2 that struck me.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of agree, kind of go with the North Ridgeville and even Nordonia. Both teams undefeated on the season, have a great seasons, but they didn't even crack the top 5. And so far, there's no GCC team. So I have not, unlike Sean, I have not seen this. So let's go. Let's see where we're going.
Wait a minute. There was a GCC team on the bubble.
Not in the Power 10 on the bubble. I agree with that. With Menor being on the bubble, they're kind of don't get a true feel of them just quite yet of what type of team they're going to be. So I agree with that being on the bubble.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to see North Ridgeville there at number 7. I mean, what a nice surprise for them. They beat a really good Valley Forge team, North Olmsted, we saw what they did against Buckeye. They beat some really good teams. And
like you said, they dominated Normandy. I was at the game. That was our SOT featured game a couple weeks ago, and they dominated Normandy, and they're having a 3-1 season. So, yeah, they deserve to be there.
Yeah, there's a lot of good teams in all these conferences. That's what I give Ed credit, man. This is a tough. I don't know how I would struggle with. There's so many good teams in all of these conferences, and you're going according to wins and all that. It's going to be a tough thing. The top 5, I think, will be worth it. I mean, realistically, in this top 10, there's still a lot of really good teams. I mean, like you mentioned, Ed, Buckeye, they come off of a North Olmsted loss, but North Olmsted 2-2 and had some close games. And Elyria Catholic, their one loss came against Sandusky Perkins, I believe. So there's another solid team there that they went into overtime with. So they very well could have been 4-0, and a lot of season left though. So let's see what the top 5 is.
All right, number 5, the Avon Lake Shoremen. They have their loss. We know who their loss is to, and there's certainly no shame in that loss. And they do have a pretty good victory over. They have a good victory over Stronsville, and they do have a lot ahead of them as well. But traditionally, I mean, their defense up until the Avon game has been phenomenal. We'll see if they can hold serve not hold serve. We'll see if they can go to Berea-Midpark and avenge that loss from last year to kind of keep them where they're at. But right now, they are. I mean, their program is fantastic, and they are top 5 in that respect. There for number 4, the Medina Air Bees are number 4 at 3-1.
All right.
Their only loss, again, is to a team that's ranked higher than them, which you will see here shortly. Avon, Medina has a good win over Wadsworth. A good win. Stowe's, they're not record-wise, they're not where you'd think they would be, but Stowe's still a pretty good program. And Medina is just, even in the loss to Avon, they put up a ton of points. So their offense is still, their offense is still, exactly. Like, Medina has not really shown much of a drop off, even with Drew Eiler starting to get his feet wet at Penn State. Number 3, the Hudson Explorers is at number 3. They are undefeated on the season, and they are, they have a good win over Solon, which has turned out to be one of their better wins at the moment. Just another traditionally great program, and they have a lot of computer points so far to help bolster themselves there. Number 2, the Avon Eagles are number 2, having defeated Avon Lake.
Okay.
And their only loss is to the number 1 ranked team in Division 4, the Glenville Tarblooders, and there is no shame in that loss. They also have a victory over Medina. So right now, Avon has defeated number 4 and number 5.
Yep.
And for that, Avon also has accumulated a decent amount of points. That means the number 1 team on this list, Coach Mike Givens and the Highland Hornets, are the number 1 team in the Power 10 to start the season.
There they are.
Highland defeated Talmadge. They have the most points in Division 2, Region 6 so far, and their defense is phenomenal. They went to a very high-flying Talmadge team and absolutely stomped them, and then ran them into the ground. And for that, Highland is now going to start out as the number 1 team in our original rankings. So,
yeah, and Ed, I like what you did with Avon Lake lost to Avon 42-21. Medina was a lot closer, so there's no doubt in my mind that Medina should be at least a little bit over Avon Lake there. So I definitely agree with that. And Avon, is having a great season, just the one, loss like you mentioned. And Highland, I mean, I had a chance to see them versus Berea-Midpark, and I mean, their defense is absolutely dominant, but their offense, has a solid passing and running game, very balanced. And just fundamentally, Coach Gibbons has that team fundamentally sound, and they don't make very many mistakes. And when they do, it's a little bit out of the norm for them. So I think that's a great top 10. And, like I said, I definitely agree with Avon being up there with the wins over Medina and Avon Lake. Them and Avon and Highland always match up in the playoffs, it seems like, too. So that would be a sensational game.
This is, head-to-head does, and there is a head-to-head component to this. And I mentioned this in our group chat. Right where North Olmsted was compared to Buckeye, it wasn't enough for North Olmsted to jump Buckeye. but Avon and Avon Lake were close enough to where the winner of that game would be ranked over the other. And then with Avon, obviously with the victory over Medina as well, that's, to me, it made sense to slot Avon over Medina and Avon Lake, even though they're all relatively close, and where things are at.
It's interesting to me, Ed, that, a lot of talk this year, coming into this year, was how was Medina going to, recover from losing a player like Drew Aller, and they seem to have not really taken too much of a step back. In fact, I think most would agree that they've excelled and maybe taken a couple steps forward, given the fact that, we've seen some record-breaking performances. I'm a guy that does the Suburban League. I understand Hudson being there. I just don't know. I think Medina head-to-head is a better team. Could you maybe give me a little insight as to where your thinking was, Hudson versus Medina? I know it's one place and a lot can go out, but I mean, initially, what was the thing that was it simply the fact that they're undefeated and they beat Solon and all that, or was that loss to Avon by Medina enough to kind of put them behind Hudson?
Two things. One, Hudson's undefeated and Medina's not. That's one of them. Number two, Hudson has better wins than Medina. Medina's wins right now are over Warren Harding and Stowe. Both those teams are 1-3. Wadsworth is a good win, so that's partially the reason why they are where they are. Hudson has not lost. They have more computer points, and their best win is a 3-1 Solon team, which Solon peeking behind the curtains is right underneath Wadsworth, and as far as our rankings are concerned. So Solon is just beneath Wadsworth. You didn't see them on the screen, but they're number 14.
Yeah, they're on the bubble.
Yes, they are. So right now, that one, they haven't lost. They both have a common opponent, Warren G. Harding. They both beat Warren Harding, so that there's that. So right now, for me, it's the fact that Hudson's undefeated and Medina is not.
And if Hudson goes into Wadsworth and beats them this Friday, that could possibly propel them to number 2. We shall see.
It could.
Interesting.
It could. I mean, I like to think so that the poll is built to where there can be movement based off of wins, and based off of strength of victories and based off of where you are in computer points. So Mentor's a very good team. Mentor could probably beat anybody on this top 10 list. I'm not disputing any of that. But
it all depends what kind of Mentor team you're getting, though.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Exactly. And these teams, the teams that make the list in this poll, is not necessarily based off of can this team beat this team 9 times out of 10. It's you get rewarded for who you've played and the games that you've won. So you win games, you're going to get ranked higher than teams that don't win games.
It's in the numbers, Jax. The numbers there.
Exactly. So that is the initial veiling of our Power 10. It will it will be static. I will we'll talk about this more obviously as every week appears, and now that everyone knows, Sean obviously knew the top 13 first before Rob and Josh. Well, they chose not to look at it, so
yep. I'd like to be surprised.
To be fair, I did it last night, and then I forgot about it until I looked at it today. So I wanted as fresh eyes as possible. Not that I don't pay attention, just that I didn't want to have any predetermined responses, and I wanted to see it as fresh as possible.
Fair enough. So more to come on this as the weeks fly by. So
yeah, nice job, guys.
Yes, fantastic.
It looks great, and excited to see what happens throughout the season here.
Well, Rob, we got one more. We got one last thing to do. We got to tell folks out there.
Yeah. Where
we gonna be on Friday night? Who are we gonna be talking about? What video highlights are you gonna see? Am I gonna figure out how to use a phone? There's so many questions that need to be answered, Rob. Why don't you tell these?
Well, I
good
could tell you
people
that
tuned in-
answer. You want me to tell you what I think about Sean
First
using
off.
the phone?
First off, I can use my phone most of the time. But where are we going to be, Rob?
That's a good question. It's a question for Josh Jeffy
All right.
Ooh.
Okay.
and
well,
Sean Duffy. They're going to be out and about, but where will they be? I have a feeling.
I kind of mentioned it when we were going over the Power 10. I will be traveling along with the Hudson Explorers to Wadsworth as one of our featured games. It's going to be a huge game, and I love going to Wadsworth. It's one of my favorite stadiums to go to. I've been there about 4 or 5 times, regular season playoffs. It's awesome. I can't wait to be back. I can't wait to be back down there. So that'll be one of our featured games. Again, for both of our featured games, follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast for in-game highlights, score updates, and then there will be video highlights on our YouTube page of this game specifically, Hudson and Wadsworth.
Yeah, it should be a great
And
one.
also, I just now realized, and thank you for pointing that out, Josh, that the W on that helmet does stand for Wadsworth. I was concerned that you at some point were cheering for the Wisconsin Badgers and that you stole someone's helmet. This week, I myself am going to take a jaunt just to the north. North.
All right, Magellan, don't worry about direction. Just tell us
I
where
got
you're
to
going.
get out an atlas, the whole thing. I will be going to watch the Westlake Demons versus the Bay Village Rockets in a Great Lakes Conference West matchup, which I'm pretty excited to go to. Looking forward to seeing 2 teams that I think, obviously Westlake's 3-1, Bay's 2-2. I'm interested to see if Westlake is the real deal. If this is something they can continue winning and see if Bay can give them a game. So I'm excited to go out that way. I'll be in Bay Village, walking around with my SOT gear on, and hopefully I get a good signal and I can actually upload the videos that I take to Twitter before I actually leave the stadium, so we don't get another situation where the data dump comes after I already tweet the final. But yeah, that's where I'll be. I'll be at Bay Village this week, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it should be a great game. If anybody's out there, say hi to Sean Duffy. He'll be roaming the sidelines. You'll see the back of his shirt and give him a shout out. Josh Jeffy's going to be in Wadsworth. Give him a shout out as he'll be running up and down the sidelines. You'll get to see his 4.8 speed up and down the sidelines. Is it 4.8?
Come on now, son.
Or is that too fast?
Yeah, maybe now. But back
He'll
in
be
the day-
seeing my 8.4 speed.
Yeah, minutes.
I know.
Very good. All right. Well, you guys heard it here first. You have our schedule. You know where we are going to be. Make sure you're following us at SOT Podcast to get live updates of the Hudson Explorers against the Wadsworth Grizzlies and the Bay Rockets hosting the Westlake Demons. For our sponsors, GV Artwork, G&G Fitness Equipment, RRT Productions, Ray Felton, State Farm Insurance, and Bandwagon Fantasy Sports. And for Sports on Tap, my name is Ed Dick, alongside Rob Trautman, Josh Sheffy, Sean Duffy. You are watching us on YouTube at our Sports on Tap. Make sure you check out our website, sportsontappodcast.com. Send anything and everything to sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. Thank you very much for joining us. We will see you on the other side.
Oh, boy.